The year was 2020. February 19th. A luxury Airbnb in the Hollywood Hills. At 4 a.m., masked intruders stormed through the doors. Minutes later, one of hip-hop's brightest rising stars lay dying. His name was Bashar Barakah Jackson. The world knew him as Pop Smoke. He was only 20 years old, but before we understand how it all ended, we need to go back to where it all began. Back to the streets of Canarsie, Brooklyn, where a young boy with Caribbean roots would grow up surrounded by violence, poverty, and impossible dreams. If you're ready to uncover the truth behind Pop Smoke's life and death, hit that subscribe button right now. We're diving deep into a story of talent, trouble, and tragedy. Born on July 20, 1999, Bashar Barakah Jackson entered a world already stacked against him. His mother, Audrey, was Jamaican. His father, Greg, was Panamanian. They raised Bashar and his older brother Robesai in Canarsie, a working-class neighborhood in eastern Brooklyn where hip-hop culture ran deep, but so did danger. Canarsie in the late 90s and early 2000s wasn't easy. It was a community dealing with poverty, crime, and limited opportunities. Young boys like Bashar had two choices: find a way out or get pulled into street life. For many, there was no choice at all. Drop a comment below if you're from Brooklyn or know the struggle of growing up in tough neighborhoods. This story is real. It's raw. And it needs to be told. Bashar's childhood showed early signs of instability. He attended 9 different schools growing up. 9. That kind of instability leaves marks on a young person. He played African drums at his local church, showing early musical talent. He also played basketball, dreaming of a scholarship that could take him somewhere better, but Canarsie streets had other plans. The violence around him wasn't just background noise. It was life. It shaped how he saw the world, how he moved, how he survived. Make sure you're subscribed to True_Crime Doc, because this story gets darker before it gets better. Hit that notification bell. When Bashar was in 8th grade, everything changed. He was expelled from school for bringing a gun to campus. 13, maybe 14 years old, and already carrying a weapon. The courts didn't take it lightly. He was charged with weapons possession and sentenced to 2 years of house arrest. 2 years. A teenager, confined to his home, wearing an ankle monitor, only allowed out for school. Years later, Pop Smoke would say that house arrest was the only reason he got his diploma. Without it, he would have been in the streets full-time. After his house arrest ended, Bashar Jackson had a brief moment of hope. He was talented at basketball, playing as a point guard and shooting guard on local courts. At 15, he earned a scholarship to Rocktop Academy in Philadelphia, a prep school that could have been his ticket out, but 6 months in, doctors diagnosed him with a heart murmur. His competitive basketball career was over. The dream died. Bashar returned to Canarsie, and this time, he turned fully to the streets. If you're learning something new about Pop Smoke, go ahead and like this video. It helps us bring you more deep dives like this. Back in Brooklyn, Bashar Jackson became involved in street life. He was connected to the 823 G Stone Crips, a gang with deep roots in Canarsie. According to law enforcement, he wasn't just affiliated. He was active. Prosecutors would later claim during his legal troubles that he was a member of this organization. The streets gave him an identity. Respect. A sense of belonging that a kid who'd been to 9 different schools desperately needed. But the streets always demand payment. And they always collect. Share this video with someone who needs to understand how street life really works. This isn't glorification. This is truth. During his time under house arrest in late 2018, something unexpected happened. Music became his outlet. A friend, rapper J Guapo, invited Bashar to a studio session. Guapo got too high and passed out. The studio time was already paid for. So Bashar, who'd never seriously rapped before, stepped up to the microphone. He found a beat on YouTube from a UK drill producer named 808 Mellow. The sound was dark, aggressive, minimalist. Nothing like the drill music coming out of Chicago at the time. Bashar recorded his first track that night. He called it NPR, a remix of Chef G's Panic Part 3. Within days, the song was racking up streams. People in Brooklyn started asking, who is this kid with the deep, gravelly voice? The answer was simple. His Panamanian grandmother called him Papa. His friends called him Smoko Guwap. Put them together, and you got Pop Smoke. If you remember the first time you heard Pop Smoke's voice, drop the song title in the comments. Welcome to the party? Dior? NPR? Let us know. By January 2019, Pop Smoke released Flexin'. Then in April came Welcome to the Party, the song that would change everything. It became the anthem of summer 2019 in New York. Nicki Minaj and Travis Scott jumped on remixes. Pop Smoke wasn't just a local artist anymore. He was a star, but success came with scrutiny. The NYPD was watching. They knew about his gang connections. They knew he was still running with the same people from the streets. And they were waiting for him to slip. October 2019. Rolling Loud Festival in New York City. Pop Smoke was scheduled to perform alongside 4 other rappers. But days before the show, the festival organizers received a letter from the NYPD. The letter claimed these 5 artists were connected to recent citywide violence and presented public safety concerns. Pop Smoke was pulled from the lineup. No charges. No trial. Just a letter suggesting he was too dangerous to perform. For an artist on the rise, this was devastating. It was a warning shot. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about how law enforcement targets hip-hop artists. This pattern repeats itself over and over. The NYPD letter mentioned that Pop Smoke had recently completed a diversion program following a weapons charge. That charge had been dismissed. But in law enforcement's eyes, he was still a problem. They saw him not as an artist, but as a gang member who happened to rap. Former NYPD Chief John Chell later admitted in interviews that they were actively investigating Pop Smoke and the gangs he was connected to. They didn't have much on him directly, but they were watching. Waiting. Looking for leverage. That leverage came in January 2020. Drop a like if you think artists deserve a fair chance, regardless of where they come from or who they used to know. November 2018. Pop Smoke met a man at a recording studio in Los Angeles who owned a 2019 Rolls-Royce Wraith worth $375,000. They made a verbal agreement. Pop Smoke could use the car in a music video. In exchange, the owner would get VIP treatment at a future concert. The car was supposed to be returned the next day. It never was. Instead, according to federal authorities, Pop Smoke arranged for the Rolls-Royce to be transported on a flatbed truck from California all the way to New York. When the owner tracked the car using GPS, it pinged in Arizona, then the signal disappeared. In December, the owner saw the car in one of Pop Smoke's Instagram posts. Tagged in New York, the owner reported it stolen. Federal investigators tracked the Rolls-Royce to Pop Smoke's mother's house in Canarsie. When they recovered it, the original California plates were covered with Alabama plates. The windows had been tinted. If you're still watching, comment WO down below. Let's see how many real fans are here. January 17, 2020. Pop Smoke returned to New York from Paris Fashion Week. He'd been there for the Louis Vuitton show, walking as a rising star in both music and fashion. As he stepped off his flight at JFK Airport, federal agents were waiting. He was arrested and charged with interstate transportation of a stolen vehicle, a federal crime. He posted a $250,000 bond and was released with conditions: stay away from known gang members, submit to drug testing, report regularly to pretrial services. The arrest was a setback, but Pop Smoke's career was still climbing. On February 7, 2020, just weeks after his arrest, he released his second mixtape, Meet the Woo 2. It debuted at number 7 on the Billboard 200, his first top 10 project. The future looked bright. He had a major tour planned. More music ready. Collaborations with the biggest names in hip-hop. At 20 years old, Bashar Barakah Jackson was living his dream, but he was also still living like he was in the streets. Subscribe to True_Crime Doc if you want to understand how success and street life don't mix. This channel tells the truth. February 18, 2020. Pop Smoke was in Los Angeles, staying at a luxury Airbnb in the Hollywood Hills. The house was owned by Teddy Mellencamp-Arroyo and her husband Edwin. It was a short-term rental, beautiful, expensive, exclusive. That evening, Pop Smoke posted on Instagram. he shared photos of gifts he'd received. In one photo, a gift bag showed the full address of the house on its label. He deleted the post later, but it was too late. Screenshots had already been taken. The damage was done. In another post, he showed off jewelry, a thick gold chain, a diamond-studded Rolex watch, stacks of cash. To his fans, it was just Pop Smoke being Pop Smoke. To someone else, it was a treasure map. CTA, hit that like button if you understand the danger of posting your location on social media. This mistake cost Pop Smoke his life. Across Los Angeles, 4 young men saw those posts. Corey Walker, 19 years old. Keandre Rogers, 18. And 2 juveniles, aged 17 and 15. They weren't professional criminals. They were kids, connected to Los Angeles street gangs, looking for a quick score. They researched the address. They studied the house. They planned a home invasion robbery. Their target, the jewelry and cash Pop Smoke had flashed on Instagram. They had no intention of meeting a global rap star. They just saw money. Around 2 a.m. on February 19, Corey Walker and the 17-year-old drove to the Hollywood Hills to case the house. They confirmed it was the right location. Then they went back, picked up the other 2, and returned just after 4 a.m. for masked figures approached the house. 3 of them went inside. Comment below if you think they knew who they were robbing. Was this about Pop Smoke specifically, or was he just a target of opportunity? Pop Smoke was in an upstairs bedroom with a woman when the intruders burst in. He was taking a shower moments before. There was no warning. Just masked men with guns, shouting demands. At first, according to later testimony, Pop Smoke complied. He started to hand over the jewelry. But then something went wrong. A confrontation broke out. Pop Smoke fought back. The 15-year-old, the youngest of the group, pistol whipped him with a Beretta 92. Then he fired 3 shots. Pop Smoke was hit in the chest and back. If this story is hitting you hard, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We need to remember these stories. We need to learn from them. The intruders fled. They took Pop Smoke's diamond Rolex watch. They would later sell it for just $2,000. $2,000. A man's life, a generational talent, ended for a watch sold for the price of a used car. Someone on the East Coast, a friend who had access to security cameras, called 911. Police arrived within minutes. Pop Smoke was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Doctors tried everything. But the damage was too severe. Bashar Barakah Jackson, known to the world as Pop Smoke, was pronounced dead. He was 20 years old. His second mixtape had been out for 12 days. Drop a prayer emoji in the comments for Pop Smoke and his family. This loss still hurts the culture today. The investigation moved fast. The LAPD identified the suspects through digital evidence, Google searches for the address, searches for Rolex watches right after the murder, phone records placing them at the scene. On July 9, 2020, 5 people were arrested. Corey Walker and Keandre Rogers, the 2 adults, were charged with murder with special circumstances, making them eligible for the death penalty. The 3 juveniles were charged in juvenile court. The 15-year-old shooter admitted to the killing in 2023, saying Pop Smoke fought back and that's when he fired. Walker's defense attorney, initially famed lawyer Christopher Darden, argued that his client never entered the house, stayed in the car, and specifically told the others to use a flower vase to defend themselves, not a gun. Prosecutors said Walker planned the robbery and armed the juveniles. In February 2025, Walker pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and home invasion robbery. He was sentenced to 29 years in prison. The 15-year-old shooter received 50 years to life but will only serve until age 25 under California juvenile law. Let us know in the comments, is justice being served? 29 years for Walker, juvenile detention for the shooter. What do you think? Pop Smoke's death sent shockwaves through hip-hop. Tributes poured in from every corner of the industry. 50 Cent stepped up to executive produce Pop Smoke's posthumous album, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, which was released on July 3, 2020. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. All 19 tracks charted on the Billboard Hot 100. For the Night hit number 6. What You Know About Love reached number 9. Pop Smoke became the first artist ever to have his first 2 posthumous albums debut at number 1. Subscribe to True_Crime Doc for more deep dives into hip-hop's darkest moments. We're just getting started, but beyond the music, Pop Smoke's story is a warning. About the dangers of social media. About the impossibility of leaving street life behind even when success comes. About how young men, both the victim and the killers, get caught in cycles of violence they can't escape. Pop Smoke's mother, Audrey Jackson, said it best after the final plea deal: "It's over for everybody except for me. This never ends for me. I still don't have my son." The legal system can prosecute. The music industry can release posthumous albums. Fans can stream the music and keep the legacy alive. But none of it brings Bashar Barakah Jackson back. None of it heals the hole left in his family. None of it answers the question, what if he just kept that address private? If you've learned something from this story, hit that like button and share it. Young people need to see this. They need to understand the real consequences. Pop Smoke's life was brief but impactful. From Canarsie to the world stage in less than 2 years. A voice that defined Brooklyn drill. A presence that couldn't be ignored. And a tragic end that reminds us how fragile life is. Especially for young black men navigating success, fame, and the streets they came from. His music lives on. His influence shaped an entire generation of artists. But the man himself, Bashar Barakah Jackson, is gone. 20 years old. Too much talent. Too little time. This has been True_Crime Doc. Subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape hip-hop culture. Hit that notification bell. And remember, every post you make could be seen by the wrong eyes. Every flex could paint a target on your back. Stay safe out there, rest in power, Pop Smoke. The Woo will never die. Thanks for watching True Crime Doc. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's the biggest lesson from Pop Smoke's story? And let us know what case you want us to cover next. Subscribe. Like. Share. Peace.